Hello everyone. In this presentation today, you would understand how VB.NET provides several types of statements for programmers to develop effective web and Windows applications. The later part would basically be a podcast that would decisively give information about the different statements that VB.NET supports. I request you all to listen carefully.
VB.NET statements. I personally feel that statements in a program are what bricks are to a building. If you decompose a building into smaller parts, what we would get is bricks besides the other constructing components. In a similar manner, if you decompose one huge program, what you would find would be the statements. Well, typically VB.NET is also a programming language available in Visual Studio IDE. Therefore, whatever program that we create would be basically comprising of statements that could be categorized on different heads. The first statement that we have in VB.NET is called assignment statement. An assignment statement is typically something where you are trying to assign or provide a value to a variable. A variable could be assigned with another variable. In this case, let's say A is being assigned to B. The variable A will take the value of B. In a similar manner, if I say A is equal to 25, we now are of the understanding that the variable A is being equated or is being provided with a value 25. So the first statement of first category of statement in VB.NET is assignment statement. Alright. The next is called initialization statement, wherein we provide a value to a variable. Now there is a subtle difference between an assignment statement and an initialization statement. Honestly, I do not find that this particular difference is well being amplified in many of the textbooks. The difference is this. We initialize a variable with a value when we apparently see that the variable would keep on changing its value throughout the execution of the program. But if we know that a variable might not undergo too many number of changes or too many number of iterative values, then we would say that the particular variable is being assigned with a value. Alright, that's what the difference between assignment and then initialization statements are. We may say that the assignment statement differs from an initialization statement only from the viewpoint of the number of times a variable might undergo changes. Okay, that's the point. Then the next category of statements that we have in VB.NET is called decision-making statement. Then we have something called conditional statement. Then we have looping statement. Then we have branching statement. Now, I have tried a lot in trying to understand what these individual categories of statements are in many of the textbooks. Well, I was not satisfied with the answers or the kind of coverage that have been given in those books. Well, I understand decision-making statements is a umbrella term that houses conditional statements, looping statements, and branching statements. By the term decision-making statements, we refer to those statements that will help us to decide on a course of action to be performed based on the satisfaction or fulfillment of a condition. So let's say there are three alternatives. We may have to choose one. We call that as deciding on something. In a similar manner, we have something called as branching statements. We should clearly know that both decision-making and branching statements are altogether two different aspects. Under decision-making statements, we have conditional statements and looping statements. Under branching, without even fulfilling any of the conditions, we could immediately alter the flow of execution. Okay. Let's now talk about in a bit detail-oriented aspect. Okay. So when you talk about conditional statements like if, else if, or even else if ladder, or select case, or switch case in C language, conservatively speaking, we talk about fulfilling one condition. Once the condition is satisfied, the given block, either under if or else if or even under else part, is being executed. If the condition is not being satisfied, that particular block of statements are being skipped. That's what we typically know. So is the case with looping statements. We have a block of statements that gets repeatedly executed so long as a predefined condition is being satisfied or met. But when you're talking about branching statements, they would simply alter the flow of very execution whether or not a particular condition is being met. For example, go to is a branching statement. We have forward branching or backward branching. In other words, more clearly, we have forward jumping and backward jumping. But it is not a good programming practice to use branching statements these days because it might cause a kind of confusion while we are trying to debug, and the program might lack clarity. I don't say it will lack clarity, but it might lack clarity. Okay, that's a basic understanding. Alright, so in this short podcast on VB.NET statements, we have learned about the varied categories of VB.NET statements, namely assignment statements, initialization statements, decision-making statements, that would cover both conditional and looping statements. Then we also have one more set of statements. They're called as branching statements, or rather statements that would help us to make either a forward jump or a backward jump. Okay. Well, we also have something to be covered under statement. We also have something called as an expression. Okay, an expression could also be viewed as a valid statement in VB.NET. It can comprise of operands and operators. For example, when I say A is equal to B plus 2, here the variable A is being equated with the variable B plus an addition or summating B with 2, and altogether B plus 2 is being assigned to A. And we would call such expressions as also a valid statement in VB.NET. Okay? Alright, thanks so much for your patience and listening.